There comes a moment in every person's life when they look at themselves not just in the mirror, but in the soul, and realize they've been living on autopilot. Their thoughts are not their own. Their habits are borrowed. Their beliefs were planted by a society that never wanted them to rise too high. And their potential sleeps beneath layers of doubt, fear, and quiet resignation. But make no mistake, the moment you see this truth is the moment you begin to awaken. Because the greatest battle you will ever fight is not against another man, another system, or another circumstance. It is against the program that has been running your mind. The invisible script written by others. The conditioning that tells you what's possible, what's reasonable, what's safe. You are not your thoughts. You are the thinker of those thoughts. You are not your beliefs. You are the architect of belief itself. To reprogram your mind for success and power is not to become something you're not, it's to return to who you were meant to be before the world taught you to settle. Most people never question the origin of their thoughts. They wake up, follow routines designed by others, think in patterns handed down by parents, teachers, media, culture, and they call it life. But as Napoleon Hill once wrote, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. What he meant was far deeper than most ever grasped. He wasn't merely talking about wishful thinking. He was talking about mental reprogramming. He was describing the process of breaking the chains of inherited limitation and writing your own code of destiny. Understand this. The mind is not a fixed entity, it is clay. And you are both the sculptor and the fire that hardens it. Your beliefs are nothing but repeated thoughts, carved into neural pathways through emotion and repetition. You can carve new ones. You can ignite new circuits of power. You can condition yourself for victory the same way the world unconsciously conditioned you for mediocrity. Think about the giants of history: Edison, who failed thousands of times before lighting the world. Carnegie, who started with nothing but a vision of steel and empire. Ford, who defied an industry that laughed at his dream of a car for every man. Lincoln, who rose from poverty and heartbreak to shape a nation. Disney, who went bankrupt before he built an empire of imagination. What do they share? Not luck, not privilege. They shared mental programming, an inner belief system built on persistence, faith, and an unwavering conviction that success begins and ends within the mind. Every one of them rewired their thinking to match the vision they held inside. They lived by mental laws, while others lived by circumstance. So ask yourself now, what are the dominant thoughts you allow to live inside you? What phrases echo in your head when you wake up, when you fail, when you dream? Because those phrases are not harmless, they are seeds. And every seed, whether of victory or defeat, will grow. Your life today is the harvest of yesterday's thoughts. And your future will be the fruit of today's mental diet. If you think in limitation, you will live in limitation. If you think in abundance, opportunity, and growth, you will become the person who attracts them. You see, success is not something you chase. It is something you magnetize by who you become. It's not about grinding endlessly. It's about aligning your inner frequency to the vibration of your vision. As Hill taught in Think and Grow Rich, success comes to those who are success conscious. That means success begins not in effort, but in identity. You cannot live beyond what you believe yourself to be. You cannot create beyond what your self-image permits. So, if you want to rise, you must rewrite the code that defines you. That is where reprogramming begins, with awareness. Most people live asleep. They think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and repeat the same actions day after day, year after year, while expecting change. It's not because they're weak. It's because the mind is a machine of habit. Your subconscious is like a loyal servant. It does not question, it obeys. Whatever command you feed it repeatedly, it executes. So when you tell yourself, I can't, I'm not enough, it's too late, it's too hard, your subconscious doesn't argue. it agrees, and builds your life accordingly. But when you decide, I can, I will, I must, I am becoming unstoppable, your mind reorganizes itself around those commands. You begin to attract ideas, opportunities, and people that reflect your new identity. It's not magic, it's alignment. The great tragedy of modern life is that people wait for change to come to them rather than from within them. They wait for motivation. They wait for luck. They wait for the right moment. But life does not reward those who wait. It rewards those who decide. Decision is the fert. Faith must become your fuel. It must burn hotter than doubt, stronger than fear, deeper than logic. Because logic will tell you what's reasonable, but faith will take you beyond reason. Logic will say, wait until it's certain. Faith says, move, and it will become certain. Every great dreamer who ever reshaped this world was irrational by the standards of his time. They believed in things unseen. They trusted an inner voice that whispered, it's possible. And that whisper became the roar that moved mountains. Faith is not pretending everything is easy. Faith is standing tall even when the storm hits, even when no one believes in you, even when your hands shake and your path is unclear because something inside says, keep going. Faith is the invisible thread that ties your present to your destiny. When you reprogram your mind for success, faith becomes your operating system. You stop reacting to what is and start responding to what can be. You stop asking how and start declaring when. You stop negotiating with your dreams and start committing to them like vows. That's how Edison kept going through 10,000 failures. That's how Lincoln kept pushing through defeat after defeat. That's how you must stand unbending, unbroken, unshaken. Because the moment you decide to rise, life will test you. Not to break you, but to prove you. To see if your new mental code is strong enough to hold the success you seek. The universe never denies you, it simply asks, are you ready for what you're asking for? And that's where discipline enters. Faith begins the journey, but discipline carries it to the end. Discipline is the silent power behind every great life. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It's the quiet force that says, I'll do it anyway. Discipline is when you rise before the sun, when no one is watching. It's when you repeat your affirmations when doubt screams in your ear. It's when you choose growth over comfort, purpose over pleasure, commitment over convenience. The weak wait for motivation. The strong build discipline. Because motivation fades, discipline becomes who you are. Napoleon Hill said, the man who cannot control himself can never control others. And that's the truth of all mastery. Control begins within. When you reprogram your mind, you're not just building new thoughts, you're building a new identity. A self-image that says, I follow through no matter what. That's how power compounds. Because when your mind learns that your word means something, that your promises to yourself are sacred, then your subconscious begins to trust you. And once your subconscious trusts you, it will move mountains to protect your command. That's why disciplined people seem lucky. They're not lucky, they're aligned. Their thoughts, emotions, and actions move as one. No inner conflict, no wasted energy, just focus, persistence, and progress. Discipline gives birth to resilience. The moment you begin to change your inner programming, resistance will appear. It's the test of transformation. Your old self will fight for survival because the ego fears death more than anything else. It will whisper, take a break. You're not ready. What's the point? But resilience is when you stare that voice in the eye and say, not today. It's when you use pain as power, failure as feedback, doubt as direction. Every time you overcome an obstacle, your mind records a new truth. I am stronger than I thought. And that truth becomes the new foundation of your belief system. Look at the story of Henry Ford again. When his first company collapsed, he could have quit. But instead, he said, failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. That is the language of a reprogrammed mind. A weak mind seeks comfort. A strong mind seeks growth. And growth lives on the other side of resistance. Now hear this. You cannot think like a victim and live like a victor. You cannot speak like the broken and walk like the chosen. You cannot surround yourself with mediocrity and expect greatness. Your associations are part of your mental code. If you spend your time with people who complain, you'll begin to think complaining is normal. If you spend your time with dreamers, builders, believers, your subconscious begins to think expansion is natural. You become what you're exposed to. That's why Hill created the concept of the mastermind, a spiritual alliance of like-minded individuals working toward a definite purpose. He understood that collective belief magnifies power. When you walk with giants, you start taking giant steps. When you sit at tables of vision, your own vision expands. So protect your mental environment. Do not feed your dreams to people who cannot digest them. Build your circle carefully, not with the loudest, but with the most aligned. But even beyond environment, the deepest transformation happens in silence. Because there will.